As you were talking, it reminded me of something I was thinking about a couple of days ago, which may or may not have anything to do with the talk. People speak a lot about practical spirituality. A lot of people use that term as a way to bring people into their spiritual center or their church, saying that we're not really spiritual, we're just going to do kind of prayer kind of things, but it's going to be like going to an NLP workshop or something really, because you can take these things into your life and they're actionable. This is actionable. Now, I think I have something practical in my talk today, but I just want to say that we can't be afraid to step into the spiritual thinking it's not practical. Because I know in my life, when things are going well, it's because I'm centered in this kind of stuff. I'm centered to the earth, yes. I'm centered to the universe, yes. But I'm also centered in knowing where my power is. Which brings me to the quote that starts my talk. And the quote is from Ernest Holmes, that guy that wrote that book. And he said, "Love is the self-givingness of the spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of creation." Emerson tells us that love is a synonym for God. We also are told in the New Testament that he that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. Love is free from condemnation, even as it is free from fear. Love is a cosmic force whose sweep is irresistible. So, what gets in the way of us letting love live in our lives? That's all the universe wants for us, is to live in love. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about romantic love and that Valentine's Day love and stuff, but love in general, love of life, love of who you are, love of what you do even, as well as love to humankind and all the other entities that we have living on our planet at the time, your pets and the birds and the trees. But what blocks us gets hidden in our belief system. It's cultural conditioning, the way we're brought up, the onslaught of junk from the news, all that stuff starts getting in the way. The bills that are there at the first 15th or 30th of the month, however that gets stacked up at your house. It's all there, and a lot of times we allow it to get in our way. And we do it so often it becomes a habit, and then that habit goes into our belief system, and we think, well, I can't deal with this, that, or another. I can't take time to do any of this kind of stuff because I got this. It's the X day of the month. I got to do this. Or it's Tuesday, it's Monday. I got to think only of work, not of what's in me, what I am, who I am. And sometimes it's not that stuff. It's stuff that's so close to us because it's become a habit out of years or out of believing what somebody who's actually ignorant of the truth says to us, and for some reason we buy it. And we buy it so often and so long that it stays hidden in our belief system, and we don't even know it's there anymore. Other people probably do, which is why sometimes you want to ask the person in your life, or the people in your life that you know will tell you the truth, but that you know love you and respect you. Our vision of beauty gets skewed by our perceptions of life. And our perceptions of life, of course, sit in our belief system. In the Science of Mind book, it says, love does not overcome hate and fear by argument or force, but by some subtle power of transformation, transmutation, sublimation, invisible in its essence, but apparent through its act. So we have to do something, both in consciousness and in action, in a bodily way. Now, it's not always easy to do the right thing. It's not always easy to take the high road. Believe me, I get it. It gets easier as we get clearer on this stuff. And as we allow it to be most of how, not what, but how we think. When we know who I am and who I want to be in the world. When I do the right thing, when I do the right thing, I know I do the right thing. When I'm doing the right thing for a dumb reason, like a reason that that comes from me trying to get ahead and trying to be right, I know that I can feel the difference. I'm sure you can too. Feel the difference between that rightness, that's more righteousness, I guess, in a way, and when it's right, because you feel centered, you feel good, you feel like even if it gets you in trouble, it feels like some cog got set in the perfect place, in the correct place to make the wheel keep turning. The wheel of magnificence, the wheel of prosperity, the wheel of health and vitality, the wheel of peace. I saw that in the last few months, and especially last week, from people like Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, Alexander Vindman, and Senator Mitt Romney. Not necessarily a people or a person that I would agree with in many ways, but I can recognize when somebody's doing something that they feel in their soul is right, when the divine has spoken to them and they know, I have to do this and I'm not going to be popular, but I have to do this because it's honest and it's kind and it's the way it should be. It brings peace. Again, from the Signs of Mind book, as light overcomes the darkness, so the radiant presence of love and peace dissipates fear, hate, and confusion. Both of those gentlemen and many other people in the world, in the future and from the past, they get by when they do what's quote-unquote right, even though the people around them, especially the ones that don't want them to do the right thing, throw hay at them of some sort. They know their life goes on. They may have a bit of time that's rough because of this decision that comes from not only their heart but their soul and the inspiration, as well as the logic, that they know that the divine, that spirit has spoken to them and saying, no, your centeredness, your conscience belongs here in revealing the divine. When I love or act from love, like kindness or compassion, as well as in passion, I know it comes from an intimate connection and communion with the divine, and then I see that as practicality, because when it shows up in my life, I do the practical thing that comes from kindness and compassion and smarts and things that are inspiring and good. And honest. And you may say, well, what about my enemies? How do I love them? I'm talking about love, not like. You get to dislike any schmuck out there you want. You get to dislike or like anybody, no matter who your partner or your friends or your party, political party, or any of that. No matter who they like or dislike, you get to decide who you like and dislike. You get to decide who you vote for or not vote for. You get to decide who you hang out with or invite to your party or your wedding, not your mother. Well, it's their third cousin, and you know that I don't want them there because I'd rather have these people there, and I only want to invite X number of people, so third cousin's got to go out. Sorry. That's the right thing. That's coming from my heart. And you know, some people don't like you. Some people don't like it because they don't like the way you talk, the way you think, that you come here. They don't like you because your talents and abilities may be greater than them, so they don't like you because they're jealous of you. They don't like you because of your hair, your skin color, your whatever. There's all kinds of stupid reasons that people don't like you, and there's equally stupid reasons we don't like other people. I'm sure if I stood here long enough, I could think of somebody or something I don't like and then realize, well, that's really kind of stupid because it comes from a dumb place. And when that happens, you realize, and they would realize that they thought about it long enough, it doesn't come from something that was done, quote unquote, to you or to them. It comes from some biases or prejudices or jealousy, mostly ignorance. We must love our enemies not to approve their actions or ideas, but to disprove their power. Not that they don't have the power, because even crappy people have this. Who we believe are crappy people. They have that too. But we can disprove of their power in our lives. Yes? Yes. Maya Angelou wrote, "In the flush of love's light we dare be brave. And suddenly we see that love costs all we are and will ever be. Yet it is only love which sets us free." Love me and poetic as she would always be. It just was. So we have to take the time to remove these false beliefs we have. We have to engage in our true or our higher self and choose our ideas and our actions from a place of love. And again, it's heart love, not passion love. It's divine love, not whether I like you or not love. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "We must see that force begets force, hate begets hate, toughness begets toughness, and it is all a descending spiral, ultimately ending in destruction for all and everybody. Somebody must have sense enough and morality enough to cut off the chain of hate and the chain of evil in the universe, and you do that by love." Lieutenant Colonel Vindman did that by love of country. And he even did some things that he wasn't supposed to do as far as chain of command stuff. But he loved his country so much, he honored his pledge as a person of the military and as a person working in the government, that was most important to him. Not the protection of another person. What he swore to do was most important to him. And everyone knows, whether you buy into his politics, whether you agree with the work he did when he was with the Bain Corporation or any of that, you still know that this man, Mitt Romney, was a very spiritual, some will say religious man. In fact, in some ways, that helped him never get as far as he wanted to get, because he wanted to become president. Because he has a problem, quote unquote problem saying something nasty about other people. Because he believes, he may not use these terms, he believes that the divinity is in everybody. He may not agree with things, but again, like Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, and you could name all kinds of people, I'm just bringing those two up because they were kind of in the news this week, even, although I don't know why, even the what was his name, Sondland, who, you know, he stepped up. He might have stepped up out of fear, I'm not sure, but he stepped up. He said, you know what, okay, this is the full story. But again, back to Romney, he did this out of honoring what was in his heart, honoring the pledge he made. This was something that he promised to do, and that was important to him, no matter what the consequences are or will be. Each of us needs to step into that in our own way in every situation. And last week was another tough week. And, you know, I get outrage, I get the sadness, I get the anger. But when we step into this stuff, and I say stuff respectfully, when we step into these ideas, into these principles, when we see it under other people, when we see that namaste, it doesn't mean we like them, it doesn't mean we approve of what they do, it only means what we do with this anger, this sadness, and this outrage. And we do it through love. We don't have to be necessarily nice to the person. We don't, you know, you can do it with your vote. You can do it with going to a protest. You can do it by all kinds of different ways that are more practical. But first you have to do it through your heart. And you have to take the lesson. So you have to decide for yourself what will be your vision of beauty. And I want to tell you, I get sad, and I get outraged, and I get angry, and I go through it, and maybe I listen to a little bit too much news sometimes, and maybe I should listen to more music in the car than the news. But a lot of times I also get my neutrality to it and just, you know, well, I know, it sucks and it's especially rough for other people, but I know that love will win out. I know what Marianne Williamson had been saying all those months, and she continues to say it if you go to her Twitter feed, etc., about how love, even through the practicalities of government, is what's going to put us through. I was reminded, all this talk of the election and everything. Somebody brought up Jimmy Carter's election. Nobody, only because of he was way behind in the polls and way behind in the early stages of this primary process, and they started having clips of what he said, and he was talking this stuff. Now he was talking through more as far as religion goes. His religious philosophy is different than ours in that of the ideals, but not of the basic thing, in that we're all one, and when we speak and act through love instead of hate, things get better quickly. And he was talking about that on the trail. It was so interesting. I never realized that, partially because I was younger when he was around and probably didn't pay attention that much. But I was amazed. It was like, Marianne Williamson speak, but in 70 something. Amazing. Because he had a vision of beauty for this country. Because Marianne has a vision of beauty for this country and for the world. And many other people too, do too. And that doesn't stop them from taking action. That doesn't stop them from disliking things or even people. That just means all the action they take, the practical spirituality of it, comes through love and kindness and compassion, as well as the passion to make this country and this life and our lives and their lives the best and most magnificent it could possibly be.